So we're going to do an increase. So I've already chained 10. And I'm going to chain 1 as my step up to my next row. So I'm going to do a single crochet increase for this. I do 1 single crochet, and then into that hole that I just did a single crochet, I'm going to go into it again and do a single crochet. And that is a single or 1 increase right there. I can do it again in the next hole. So I do a single crochet in the next hole, and then I can do a second one in the same hole that I used. So now I used 2 stitches for my first chain, but now I've created 4 stitches. So I've multiplied my row by 2. I go my third chain stitch, do 1 single crochet, and then I can do a second one using the same hole. So now I've multiplied it again by 2. This is my 4th stitch of my chain. I'm going to do 1 single crochet and then another. And when you're doing this on a chain, you're going to get a curl. So if you're doing something with you want some twists on, that's what you can do. I can do the next one. I believe this is my 5th chain, which will bring me up to 10 single crochets if I did 2 in each one. Here's my 6th. I'll do 2 there. It's my 7th. Oops, hair attached. I'll do 2 there. So as you can see, it will create a curlicue. But I've now taken, here's 8th, I'm doing 2 there. My original 10 stitches, I'm doing 2 in each one, and I've now turned 10 stitches of my chain, my original row, by 10 stitches I've now turned into 20. So if I were to flatten this out, it creates a circle. But I can also use it if I'm doing something I want to curl. So if you want to make something a little wider, like when you're doing a hat, you typically go your single row, then you double it by 2 stitches in each one. Then your next row is usually a single stitch in one stitch, 2 in the next one. Then your next one is a single stitch, 2 stitches. Then it's single, 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 2. And you keep adding a single. So therefore, whatever count stitch you add, you had when you started, if you're doing it that way for like a hat where you're equally increasing, you would add more. So typically, most hat patterns start with you a circle of 8, whether you're doing a chain loop or a magic circle. And so your stitch count for each row typically is 8, 16, 24, 32, and it's counting by 8 because you always increase the same amount of stitches. And you can do it in any stitch. So I just undid all of them. So I'll do another chain 10 real quick. There's no particular reason to do chain 10, just gives you a space to practice. And then because I'm going to do double crochet this time, I'm going to chain 2 more stitches. And then I'm going to do a double crochet 2 stitches away. That's how you always do double crochet. And then if I wanted to count my chains as my first double crochet, I could leave it there. So just do 1, and that's counted as 2. If I don't want to count it, then I would, if my pattern doesn't count it, then I would do 2 in that hole. And there's my 2. Now I can do my next hole. And so each hole can now give me 2. Now you don't have to do 2. You could do, depending on what you're doing, you might want to do more than 2. So here's 3. If you're doing it, wanting a curl, it's definitely going to give you more. Curl, here's 4 in the same hole. Like if you're doing a border cell stitch, my stitch count's usually somewhere between 6 to 7, depending on what kind of stitch I'm doing. As you can see, it starts rounding out it. Also, if you're doing a corner, it does make your hole bigger. It's not really, so it does create that hole bigger. But as you can see, I've lost count, but all the extra stitches I've done from here on out. Up to the camera. So that's how you're increasing. This happens to be double crochet stitch. So that's on a straight line. I'll do a magic circle real quick just because I find that easier than the chain loop. Not really going to count, just do a couple, because when I talk I don't keep count really well. And double crochet is a little bit easier to see, but you can do this with any of those stitches. And one more. So there's your circle. If you're making this, anything that's going to be a circle, your next row is going to be doubling. So your pattern may count your chain as a double crochet. Sometimes the patterns don't. If it doesn't, then if it does, that's your first 2 double. That's your 1 and 2 for the same hole. It counts as that. If it doesn't, then you got to do another one in that hole. So it's 2 double crochets. The next one is 2. So I'm at 2, 4. Let me make that a little clearer. 6. 8. 10. Oops, my hair wrapped up again. Oops, this will be 10 here. Alright, so I've done 2 double crochets in each stitch, not counting my chain as a double crochet. So I've taken my original circle here, and it's now doubled. My next round, I'm not going to do 2 in each one. It would be a single in the first stitch, or you could start backwards, and then 2 in the next one. So this is the round 3. It's a count of 3. So your first stitch is by itself, numbers 2 and 3 are together. First stitch by itself, numbers 2 and 3 are together. So I believe it was 14 stitches in round 2, which means I had 7 in the first one, so this round would have 21. As you can see, it's going out. So that's how you increase. You can do it in either single stitch, half double crochet, double crochet, triple crochet, or treble if you call it that, on up to however many you want. Here is where I did 8 and then 16. So I did 8 count, and then I did 2 in each one here for 16 count. These are double crochet, and then my next first purple round was you can see it there, single and then 2, single and 2, and that's half double crochet. And then my next round was the petals. So I actually did 3 double crochets, a 3 chain peacoat, and 3 double crochets. So it's actually 6 plus a peacoat, if you want to count that as its own stitch or not, as an increase. So you can do it in different ways. So I did the circles for 3 rounds, and then I did the stitch, which also still has increases. Otherwise, it will get kind of wonky. If you do too many increases, you'll get kind of a wavy thing. And then you can vary your increases when you go into making like the star blankets and the patterns. And here is a 3-dimensional one. So I believe I did the typical 8. I went all the way up to, let's see, roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 36 doesn't seem right. I think there's more than 36 stitches. Anyways, I went up and increasing, and then down and decreasing, which decreasing would be different. There's, off the top of my head, I think there's 3 different versions to decrease on. And this is it there. And then here is another curlicue where I increased. I believe I did chain of 10 or 15, and then I did 3 and 3 for the first start for the increase, and I believe I did 2 for the rest, so it gives me my nice little curlicue. And then I did 2 round of increase here, and then I stopped increasing and just kept straight down for the stem of the pumpkin. So as you can see, the increase can be used 3-dimensionally, and it can be used flat. These are the only examples I have right in front of me at the moment. But that's the basic on increasing. Decreasing is a little more complicated, and there'll be multiple videos on that since there's 3 different methods you could do, and depending on what you're doing and how you want to look, which method you might use. And then there's, other people's versions of methods you can always come across as well.